Barren. Bankrupt. Unloved. College dropout. Pathetic. Homeless. The words burned white-hot against the massive 10-foot projector screen at my little sister's wedding reception. The letters were bold, black, and perfectly centered, inescapable in the dim light of the country club ballroom. 200 guests, representing the absolute elite of Connecticut society, erupted in a chorus of laughter. It was not polite, concealed laughter. It was the ugly, feeding frenzy kind of laughter. The kind that happens when a pack of wolves realizes one of their own is bleeding and vulnerable. My sister Bellamy, radiant in her custom $70,000 silk gown, leaned into the microphone at the head table. Her lips curled into a smirk that I had known my entire life, a look of pure, unadulterated malice masked as playful teasing. Do not laugh too hard, everyone. She might actually cry. At the head table, my mother Greer swirled her expensive red wine. She watched the room with a deeply satisfied glint in her eye, adjusting her diamond necklace as if she were observing a theatrical performance she had directed herself. Beside her, my father Thatcher, the man who was supposed to protect me from the cruelty of the world, flashed his trademark millionaire smile. He looked right at me, sitting in the darkest, most ignored corner of the room near the swinging kitchen doors. "Just a joke, sweetheart," he called out over the noise, his voice dripping with condescension. "Learn to take a joke." I did not cry. I did not scream. I did not run out of the room like they desperately wanted me to. My chest tightened as the word Barren glared down at me, ripping open a physical and emotional wound they had caused 20 years ago. A wound they knew about. A wound they were entirely responsible for. They thought they had backed me into a corner. They thought I was still the broken 18-year-old girl they threw out into the freezing snow with $43 to my name. I reached into my navy blue leather purse. My fingers wrapped around the cold metal of my phone. I unlocked the screen, opened my messages, and typed one single word to the audiovisual booth at the back of the room. Expose. 10 seconds later, the room went so dead silent you could hear the ice cracking in my mother's glass. What happened next did not just ruin a lavish wedding. It dismantled a multi-million-dollar empire and shattered a family reputation built on decades of toxic lies. But to understand how we got to this exact moment, to understand why my father thought he could humiliate a 34-year-old woman in front of the most powerful people in the state, I need to take you back. Because this was not just a cruel wedding prank. This was a calculated execution. And what they did not know is that I brought my own guillotine. Let me take you back to 3 weeks before the wedding. The night I got the phone call that set everything in motion. It is 11 at night on a rainy Thursday in Boston. I am sitting in my corner office on the 42nd floor, staring at a spreadsheet that represents the financial ruin of a corrupt pharmaceutical company. My name is Sutton. I am 34 years old. I am a senior director of forensic auditing and corporate restructuring for one of the largest financial firms on the East Coast. My job is to find the rot hidden inside shiny, successful companies and tear it out by the roots. I track missing millions, I uncover embezzlement, and I read the lies people try to hide in their taxes. I am very, very good at my job. My desk phone rings. It is an unknown number. A Connecticut area code. I hesitate for a long second before picking it up. Nobody from Connecticut calls me with good news. "Hello. Is this Sutton?" A woman's voice. Cautious. Professional, but clearly strained. "My name is Claire. I am a night nurse at the Oak Ridge Care Center. Your grandmother, Veda, asked me to call you from my personal cell phone. I am not supposed to be doing this." My hand grips the receiver so tight my knuckles turn white. Grandma Veda. 84 years old. The only person in my bloodline who ever looked at me with an ounce of warmth. The only one who did not treat my existence as a burden. Is she okay? What happened to her? Her heart condition has worsened significantly over the last 48 hours, Claire says softly, her voice echoing slightly in a quiet hallway. She is stable for now, but her cardiologist is recommending a major bypass surgery next week. At her age, the risks are immense. She has been asking for you every single day. She wants to see you before she goes under. I close my eyes, fighting back a sudden wave of panic. I have not seen Veda in 2 years. The last time I tried to visit her on her birthday, my father had the facility security escort me out of the building. I will drive down tomorrow morning, I tell the nurse, already pulling up my calendar to clear my Friday schedule. You cannot do that, Claire replies, her voice dropping to a terrified whisper. Your father, Thatcher, has placed strict orders on her visitor list. He owns a significant stake in the board of directors for this facility. The security team has your photo printed at the front desk. If you show up, they will turn you away and they will call him. Rage, cold and horribly familiar, spikes in my chest. Then why did you call me, Claire? Because your father visited her today, Claire explains. I was checking her vitals and I overheard them arguing. He told Veda that you are allowed to visit her before the surgery, but only on one condition. You have to attend your sister Bellamy's wedding next weekend. He told Veda that if you do not show your face and play the part of the supportive, loving sister, he will transfer Veda to a state-run facility 3 states away. He said he would make sure you never find her. I stop breathing. The rain lashes violently against the thick glass of my office window. He is using an 84-year-old sick woman as a hostage just to force me into a fake family photo. That is Thatcher. Everything is a transaction. Everything is leverage. People are just chess pieces to him. Did she say anything else? I ask, my voice hollow and metallic. Yes, Claire says, sounding close to tears herself. Veda told me to tell you that they are planning something at the reception. Something about a slideshow. She said, and I quote, tell my girl to be ready for the wolves. Please, Sutton, she really needs you. I hang up the phone. For 15 years, I built a fortress around myself. I changed my environment. I climbed the corporate ladder through sheer grit. I made sure I would never, ever rely on anyone named Thatcher or Greer again. But they had Veda. I walk out of my office and knock on the glass door across the hall. Hayes looks up from his array of 6 glowing monitors. Hayes is 36, a former cybersecurity contractor for the Defense Department and the best IT security expert our firm has on payroll. He is also the closest thing I have to a brother. I need a massive favor, I say, leaning against the doorframe. Hayes spins his chair around, taking one look at the expression on my face. He pauses his music. Who are we burying? I explain everything. The lavish wedding, the nursing home, the disgusting blackmail, and Veda's warning about the slideshow. When I finish, Hayes leans back, tapping a silver pen against his chin. He looks at me with deep concern. Sutton, if you walk into that wedding, you are walking into a firing squad blindfolded. You know how these people operate. I have to see Veda before her surgery, I reply, my voice unwavering. I do not care what they throw at me. I can take a few insults from Bellamy. I have taken worse. No, Hayes says, standing up and grabbing his tablet. You do not just take it. If you go, we go with a plan. You do not step into a minefield without a map. He turns back to his computers, his fingers already flying across the keyboard. Give me 24 hours to map out the vendors for this wedding. We are going to make sure you have the detonator. Are you wondering what happened when the screen flipped? Stay with me. To understand the sheer, unadulterated cruelty of the word Barren flashing on that 10-foot screen, you have to understand exactly what my parents did to me when I was 14 years old. It was a cold Tuesday in November. I remember the pain starting in my lower right abdomen during 4th period algebra class. It began as a dull, throbbing ache that slowly sharpened into a hot, blinding knife twisting endlessly inside me. By the time the school bus dropped me off at the end of our long driveway, I could barely walk upright. I crawled through the front door and collapsed onto the living room sofa, clutching my stomach, sweating profusely through my plaid school uniform. My mother, Greer, was in the adjacent dining room, aggressively brushing 10-year-old Bellamy's hair. Bellamy was competing in the Little Miss Connecticut pageant that evening. It was all Greer cared about. The expensive dresses, the spray tans, the fake smiles, the judges. Bellamy was her golden ticket to social validation among the country club wives. Mom, I gasped, tears streaming down my face, my vision blurring at the edges. It hurts. Something is wrong. Really wrong. Greer did not even turn her head to look at me. Stop being dramatic, Sutton. Bellamy goes on stage in exactly 2 hours, and you are trying to steal her thunder again. Go upstairs and take an aspirin. I cannot stand up, I sobbed. The pain spiked so violently that my body convulsed, and I threw up yellow bile onto the expensive Persian rug beneath the coffee table. Thatcher walked into the room at that exact moment, checking the time on his gold Rolex. He looked at me on the floor, then looked at the vomit on the rug, and his face contorted in pure disgust. Are you kidding me? You ruined the Persian rug today of all days? Clean that up right now and go to your room. We are leaving. They left. They actually walked out the front door, got into their luxury SUV, and left me there, writhing on the floor in blinding agony, to go watch Bellamy do a tap dance routine in a sequin dress. Hours passed. The house grew dark and freezing. The pain became a white-hot explosion in my gut, followed by a terrifying, spreading numbness that felt like death creeping up my spine. I dragged my body, inch by agonizing inch, to the kitchen phone and dialed 911 before passing out on the cold tile floor. I woke up in a sterile hospital bed 3 days later. A ruptured appendix. Massive internal infection. The surgeon, a kind woman with very tired eyes, sat by my bed and held my frail hand. She explained that because the infection was left untreated for so many hours, it had spread and caused severe pelvic inflammatory disease. The damage to my fallopian tubes and ovaries was catastrophic and irreversible. I am so sorry, Sutton, she whispered, her voice cracking. You will never be able to have children. At 14, you barely understand what that means. You just know something fundamental has been broken. But I understood the look on my mother's face when she finally visited me on the 5th day. She was not sad for me. She was annoyed. Annoyed by the sterile hospital smell, annoyed by the medical bills, annoyed that her eldest daughter was now defective. They never apologized. They never once acknowledged that their vanity and negligence cost me my fertility. Instead, over the years, it became a quiet weapon. A subtle jab at dinner parties. Oh, Sutton will not need a nursery in her future house, Greer would say with a tragic, theatrical sigh, playing the victim for her friends. That is why the word Barren on that screen was not a joke. It was murder. And then came the eviction. I was 18. A high school senior, just weeks away from graduation. Grandma Veda had gifted me a small, 2-acre plot of land near the edge of town for my sweet 16. It was just an empty, overgrown field with a beautiful ancient oak tree in the center, but she legally put the deed entirely in my name. A piece of the earth just for you, Sutton, she had said, holding my hands. A week before my graduation ceremony, Thatcher threw a thick legal document onto the kitchen table while I was eating breakfast. It was a transfer of deed. Sign it, Thatcher demanded, standing over me. My development company needs that parcel to complete the Oak Ridge commercial project. Veda is senile for giving it to you anyway. Give it back to the family. I looked at the heavy paper. It was the only thing in the entire world that was truly legally mine. No, Grandma gave it to me. I am keeping it. Thatcher's face turned a violent shade of purple. He slammed his heavy fist on the table, rattling the coffee cups and plates. You ungrateful little parasite. I feed you, I put a roof over your head, I pay for your clothes, and you defy me in my own house. Bellamy, 14 at the time, sat on the marble counter eating an apple. She smiled brightly, thoroughly enjoying the show. Greer flipped through a thick fashion magazine, ignoring us entirely as if we were watching television. I am not signing it, I said, my voice shaking uncontrollably, but my resolve firm. Thatcher pointed a trembling finger to the front door. Then get out. If you are not part of this family's financial success, you do not sleep under my roof. Get out right now. Do not pack your bags. Just walk. It was mid-December. Snow was falling heavily outside, piling up on the driveway. I looked at my mother, pleading silently. She turned the page of her magazine, admiring a diamond necklace. I walked out the front door wearing a thin denim jacket, holding my school purse. I had exactly $43 in my checking account. I slept in a 24-hour laundromat for 3 freezing nights, huddled near the dryers for warmth. I dropped out of my final weeks of high school because I had no address. I got my general equivalency diploma while working brutal double shifts at a greasy highway diner, and I clawed my way into a state college on a desperate need-based scholarship. I ate cheap ramen noodles and slept in the back seat of a rusted used car. I studied accounting because numbers do not lie, and numbers cannot manipulate you the way people do. I survived. I thrived. And for 16 years, Thatcher told everyone in our hometown that I was a troubled drug addict who ran away to the city and broke my poor mother's heart. He played the tragic, heartbroken father to perfection. I was the family disgrace. Now, sitting in my luxurious Boston apartment, packing a single navy blue designer suit for the wedding weekend, I look at myself in the mirror. I am not that shivering 18-year-old girl anymore. I have a master's degree with honors. I have a massive stock portfolio. I take down corrupt billionaires for a living. Thatcher wants me back in his web just to control Veda. He thinks I am weak. He has no idea what is coming for him. Can people really change, or is my family destined to destroy me again? The drive from Boston to Connecticut takes 3 hours, but every single mile feels like traveling backward in time into a nightmare I thought I had escaped. I pull my rental car, a modest, unassuming sedan, intentionally chosen to blend in and give them a false sense of superiority, into the sprawling circular driveway of my parents' estate. The house is a massive colonial monster, all stark white pillars, manicured emerald hedges, and a heavy oak door. It smells like old money and new lies. The mandatory pre-wedding family dinner is tonight. It is a strict requirement if I want clearance from Thatcher to see Veda at the nursing home tomorrow morning. I walk up the stone steps and knock on the heavy door. It opens almost immediately, and there stands Greer. My mother is 60 years old, pulling off 50 through sheer force of expensive dermatologists, chemical peels, and relentless Pilates. She looks me up and down, her eyes pausing critically on my simple navy suit, assessing my financial worth in a fraction of a second. "Sutton," she says, her voice as flat and welcoming as a concrete slab. "You look incredibly tired. Are you eating enough in the city? Your hair lacks volume. You really should have gotten a blowout before coming here." "Hello, Mother." "It is good to see you too," I reply smoothly, stepping past her heavy perfume into the grand foyer. The dining room is loud, filled with the clinking of crystal and forced laughter. Bellamy is holding court at the head of the long mahogany table, flashing a massive, blinding diamond ring under the chandelier. Beside her sits Callahan, the groom. Callahan is 32, a junior executive at some mid-tier logistics firm, with slicked-back hair and the deeply smug expression of a man who firmly believes he just married into royalty. He looks at me like I am the hired help arriving late for my shift. At the far end of the table sits Thatcher. He does not stand up. He does not offer a hug. He just swirls his scotch over a single cube of ice. "Well," the prodigal daughter returns. "Did you take the public bus down here?" "I drove," I say evenly, taking the only empty seat at the far end of the table, as far away from the center of attention as possible. "Right. Well, try not to cause a scene this weekend," Thatcher says, aggressively cutting into his rare steak. Callahan's mother is flying in tomorrow evening. She is Monroe, the chief executive officer of Vanguard Financial. "It is a very delicate time for my company, Sutton, and we are currently negotiating a major merger with Vanguard. Monroe is a titan in the industry. I need this wedding to be utterly flawless. Do not embarrass us with your lifestyle." I take a slow sip of ice water. Vanguard Financial. I know that name. I know it very, very well. The dinner is a grueling gauntlet of calculated microaggressions. Bellamy loudly complains about her florist using the wrong shade of white roses, then turns to me with a sickly sweet, venomous smile. "So, Sutton, are you still doing taxes for local grocery stores or whatever it is you do up there? Have you found a boyfriend yet, or are you still adopting stray cats to fill the void?" Callahan chuckles loudly, leaning over and kissing Bellamy's cheek. "Babe, do not tease her like that. Not everyone is built for success. The world needs accountants too." I smile politely, placing my fork down. "I am doing just fine, Bellamy. The wedding looks like it will be very expensive. I hope you are staying within budget." Oh, it is incredibly expensive, Greer chimes in proudly, waving her wine glass. Thatcher spared absolutely no expense for his little girl. We are a family that knows our worth, and we display it. Suddenly, the heavy dining room door swings open, and Aunt Darby walks in. Darby is Greer's younger sister, a woman who thrives on family drama like it is oxygen. She rushes over to my side of the table, wrapping me in a suffocating, perfume-drenched hug that I do not return. "Oh, Sutton, our lost little girl." Darby cries out dramatically, pulling back and wiping a completely fake tear from her powdered cheek. "I am so incredibly glad you are here. We just want this family to heal. Actually, sweetie, I have a little surprise for you tonight." Darby pulls a folded piece of heavy stock paper from her designer handbag and slides it across the polished wood table toward me. The entire room goes quiet. Thatcher goes completely still. He sets his scotch glass down, watching my hands intently. "What is this?" I ask, looking down at the paper. "It is a forgiveness agreement," Darby says brightly, placing an expensive Montblanc pen right next to it. "Your father and I talked for hours yesterday. We deeply want to put the painful past behind us. This document just symbolically says that you forgive the family for past misunderstandings, and we forgive you for running away when you were a teenager. If you sign it right now, we can all start fresh tomorrow. A totally clean slate for the wedding weekend." I stare at the paper. Then I look at Thatcher. His jaw is tight, a muscle ticking near his ear. A normal, desperate daughter craving the love she never received might have signed it blindly through tears of joy. But I am a forensic auditor. My brain is hardwired to read the fine print before I breathe. I pick up the paper and scan the text. It is dressed up beautifully with flowery language about family unity, healing, and reconciliation. But halfway down the second page, buried cleverly in a thick, dense paragraph of legal jargon, I spot the poison pill. Hereby grants Thatcher Estate Group the irrevocable power of attorney to manage, leverage, or encumber any real property listed under the signatory's name within the state limits. My blood turns to ice. This is not a forgiveness letter. This is a legally binding trap. Thatcher is trying to trick me into giving him power of attorney over the 2-acre land Veda gave me. He still wants it. And he is using Darby to play on my emotional vulnerability in front of an audience to get it. I set the paper down gently. I pick up the heavy pen, look at Darby's eager, smiling face, and then lock eyes directly with Thatcher. "Wow, Aunt Darby," I say, my voice dripping with cold, surgical precision. "This is so incredibly thoughtful. But I have a quick question about Section 4, Clause B. The part where I legally grant Thatcher irrevocable power of attorney over my real estate assets. Does forgiveness usually require a property transfer in this family, or is this a special holiday promotion just for me?" Darby's face drops instantly. Her fake smile vanishes. She stammers, looking panicked at Thatcher for help. Thatcher's face flushes a deep, angry, terrifying red. "It is standard legal boilerplate, Sutton. Stop being so paranoid and ungrateful." "Standard boilerplate for a greeting card?" I ask, standing up slowly from the table, towering over my chair. "You brought me here to extort me for a piece of dirt you could not steal 16 years ago. You have not changed, Thatcher. Not one single bit." I toss the heavy pen onto his china plate. It clatters loudly against the porcelain. "I will be at the wedding. And I will see Veda tomorrow morning. If you try to stop me, I will have my corporate lawyer fax this forgiveness agreement to the State Fraud Investigation Board before the appetizers are even served." I walk out of the dining room, leaving a stunned, heavy silence in my wake. As I walk to my car in the cold night air, my heart is pounding, but my mind is crystal clear. They are hiding something massive. Why does Thatcher need that specific land so desperately right now? What is he covering up? The next morning, the toxic machinery of the wedding is in full, terrifying swing. I am forced to attend the final dress fitting with Bellamy, Greer, and the entire flock of bridesmaids. I sit in the corner of the lavish, velvet-lined bridal boutique, sipping terrible complimentary champagne, watching my sister preen and pose in front of a massive gilded mirror. The seamstress is an older woman named Maria, with gentle hands and a tired, stooped posture that tells a story of decades of hard labor. She is kneeling on the hardwood floor, carefully adjusting the intricate lace hem of Bellamy's $70,000 gown. Be careful. Bellamy snaps suddenly, jerking her leg away violently. This silk is imported from Italy. Your hands are rough and you are going to snag it. Maria nods apologetically, keeping her head down, her cheeks flushing red. I am so sorry, miss. Just one more pin right here at the ankle. As Maria reaches forward with trembling fingers to insert the tiny pin, Bellamy shifts her weight abruptly to look at her profile in the mirror. The pin slips, lightly grazing Bellamy's ankle. It does not draw blood. It barely leaves a faint red mark on her pale skin. But Bellamy screams as if she has been stabbed with a hunting knife. Are you blind? She shrieks, kicking her foot out aggressively and hitting Maria squarely in the shoulder. The older woman stumbles backward, gasping in shock, dropping her velvet pincushion. Hundreds of pins scatter across the floor. You stupid, incompetent old bat. You scratched me. You ruined my skin for tomorrow. Greer rushes over, inspecting the entirely invisible injury with exaggerated horror. Oh my God, Bellamy, are you okay? Manager. Where is the boutique manager? The manager scurries over, looking completely terrified, her clipboard shaking against her chest. Bellamy points a manicured, shaking finger at Maria, who is now kneeling on the floor, picking up pins with tears in her eyes. Fire her. Right now. I am not paying a single dime for this dress if this piece of lower-class trash ever touches me again. Get her out of my sight. Miss Bellamy, please, Maria is our best seamstress. She has worked here for 10 years. The manager pleads desperately. I do not care. Fire her right now without pay, or I will ruin this store on every social media platform by noon. I will tell everyone you employ incompetent butchers. Bellamy threatens, her face twisted in pure, unadulterated cruelty. The manager swallows hard, looking at the floor, and turns to Maria. Maria, you need to leave. Pack your things in the back. Maria's eyes fill with heavy tears. She does not argue. She just nods, utterly humiliated, and shuffles slowly toward the back room, her shoulders shaking. I watch this entire scene unfold, my stomach churning with violent disgust. This is the golden child. This is the woman my parents celebrate and worship. A monster wrapped in imported white silk. I quietly stand up, place my champagne glass on a table, and walk toward the back room, slipping out of the main viewing area unnoticed. I find Maria sitting by the employee lockers, quietly sobbing into a crumpled tissue, her livelihood destroyed in 60 seconds. Maria? I say softly. She looks up, startled, wiping her face quickly. I reach into my purse, pull out my leather checkbook, and write a check. I hand it to her. She looks at the number and gasps, covering her mouth. It is 3 times her monthly salary. You do not deserve to be treated like that by anyone, I tell her firmly. Take this money. Take a vacation. Buy yourself something nice. Do not ever let people like my sister make you feel small. They are the ones who are empty inside. She grabs my hand, weeping openly, thanking me repeatedly. I walk out of the back room, feeling a cold, hard resolve solidifying in my chest like concrete. Bellamy is not just a spoiled brat. She is actively, joyfully destructive. Later that same evening, Thatcher hosts a lavish pre-wedding charity gala at the country club. It is a highly calculated public relations move designed to impress the Vanguard CEO, Monroe, who is arriving tonight on a private jet. The grand ballroom is filled with local politicians, judges, and wealthy business owners. Thatcher takes the grand stage, smiling warmly under the spotlights. He holds up an oversized novelty check made out to a local children's orphanage for $50,000. The crowd applauds wildly, a standing ovation. Greer beams from the front row, wiping away a delicate tear. They look like absolute saints. Pillars of the community. I excuse myself to get some fresh air on the quiet outdoor terrace. As I stand in the dark shadows near the open windows of the club's private, secluded study, I hear a familiar, angry voice. It is Thatcher. I peek carefully through the narrow gap in the heavy velvet curtains. Thatcher is pacing the floor, gripping his cell phone aggressively. I do not care if your guys have families to feed, Tom. Thatcher barks viciously into the phone. You missed the concrete pouring deadline by 2 days. I am invoking the penalty clause in our contract. I am not paying the final invoice. A long pause as the man on the other end speaks, his voice thin and desperate even from a distance. Listen to me very carefully, Thatcher snarls, his face twisted in malice. $3,000 is absolute pocket change to me, but I am keeping it on principle to teach you a lesson. If you try to sue me for it, I will bury your little pathetic construction company in so much litigation that you will be living in a cardboard box by Christmas. Do not ever call this number again. He hangs up violently, adjusts his silk tie in the mirror, puts his saintly, warm smile back on his face, and walks out the door to rejoin the cheering gala. He just deliberately ruined a small business owner's life over $3,000, exactly 5 minutes after publicly donating $50,000 for a newspaper photo op. The hypocrisy is suffocating. It is evil. I pull out my phone and text Hayes. Sutton, I need a full, unrestricted financial deep dive on Thatcher Estate Group. Pull everything. And check Bellamy's personal credit history while you're at it. Something is very wrong here. They're projecting too much wealth. It feels like a smokescreen. Hayes, I thought you were just going to a wedding, not auditing them. Sutton, they declared war. I am just gathering my ammunition. How deep does the rock go in my family's empire? I am about to find out, and it is infinitely worse than I could have ever imagined. Back at my quiet hotel room, the harsh, blue glow of my laptop screen is the only light in the darkness. It is 2 a.m. I am sitting cross-legged on the bed, using my secure corporate virtual private network access to dig deep into public tax records, offshore shell companies, and hidden credit reports. As a senior forensic auditor, I know exactly where desperate people hide their dirt. They always leave a paper trail. Always. The first thing I look into is Vanguard Financial, the massive corporate entity run by the groom's mother, Monroe. I bypass the public relations websites and pull up Vanguard's internal list of upcoming acquisition targets for the fiscal year. My breath catches sharply in my throat. There it is. Project Oak. Vanguard Financial is in the final, highly sensitive stages of acquiring Thatcher Estate Group for a staggering $40 million. It is a buyout that would save my father's legacy. But reading the fine print, the deal is strictly contingent on one massive condition. Thatcher must prove he holds the clear, unencumbered titles to all the land in the Oak Ridge development sector to build a massive commercial retail plaza. I pull up the county property map of the Oak Ridge sector. Right in the dead center of the development zone, completely blocking the entire proposed construction path, is a tiny 2-acre square. My 2 acres. The land Veda gave me. Thatcher does not want to forgive me. He never wanted to heal our family. He desperately needs my signature to hand over that land so he can close a $40 million buyout. Without my land, the Vanguard deal collapses instantly. But why is he so desperate to sell his entire life's work? I dig much deeper into Thatcher's corporate bank accounts. I ignore the glossy public financial statements and look directly at the hidden debt-to-income ratios and private ledger transfers. Bomb number 1. Thatcher Estate Group is secretly drowning in debt. They are massively overleveraged on 4 different failing commercial properties. They are bleeding cash every month. But the absolute worst part is a scanned loan document I find hidden carefully under a dummy subsidiary corporation. 6 months ago, Thatcher took out a $2 million high-interest bridge loan from a shady private equity firm just to keep his company afloat and pay his staff. The listed collateral for that massive loan? The Oak Ridge land, including my 2 acres. I zoom in and stare at the signature on the bottom of the loan agreement. It is signed Veda Thatcher. My stomach drops into a bottomless pit. Veda has been in a supervised care facility for 2 years with severely declining cognitive and physical health. She cannot even hold a pen steady enough to sign a birthday card. She did not sign this document. Thatcher forged his own sick mother's signature to illegally mortgage a piece of land that actually belongs to me, just to keep up his billionaire facade and keep the lights on. If the bank finds out, or if Vanguard finds out during their final due diligence, it is not just corporate bankruptcy. It is federal wire fraud. It is identity theft. It is 10 to 20 years in federal prison. My phone buzzes on the nightstand, startling me. An encrypted file drops into my secure inbox from Hayes. Hayes, you asked for Bellamy's financials. Brace yourself. The golden child is completely, spectacularly broke. I open the file. Bomb number 2. Bellamy, the girl who wears $70,000 dresses and mocks my lifestyle in front of hundreds of people, has exactly $150,000 in maxed-out, high-interest credit card debt spread across 12 different cards. But that is not even the worst part. Hayes is a genius. He managed to pull a pawn shop registry database from the neighboring county. 3 weeks ago, Bellamy walked into a pawn shop and pawned a vintage emerald ring for $40,000 in untraceable cash. I recognize the detailed description and the serial number on the pawn ticket. It is the Callahan family heirloom ring, the priceless antique the groom's mother, Monroe, gave Bellamy for the formal engagement announcement. The ring currently sitting on Bellamy's finger, the one she flashed at dinner, is a cheap cubic zirconia replica she bought online. She sold her future mother-in-law's priceless family heirloom just to pay off her credit card minimums and buy more designer shoes. I sit back against the headboard, the screen illuminating my face in the dark room. My entire family is a fragile, rotting house of cards. Thatcher is a desperate fraud facing federal prison. Bellamy is a broke, lying thief. And they have the absolute audacity to look down on me? They plan to humiliate me tomorrow night at the reception while standing on a mountain of their own crimes? I pick up my phone and call Hayes. He answers on the first ring, the sound of keyboard clacking in the background. Did you read the files? Hayes asks, his voice thick with disbelief. I read them, I say, my voice dangerously calm, the kind of calm that comes right before a hurricane. Hayes, what is the exact status of the audio-visual vendor for the wedding? The local company running the projectors was incredibly short-staffed. Hayes chuckles darkly. I applied yesterday morning as a freelance technician. I am officially hired. I will be running the soundboard and the main projector for the reception tomorrow night. Good, I say. I am going to send you a presentation file right now. Keep it loaded on a secure, encrypted USB drive. When I give you the signal tomorrow night, you override whatever garbage my family tries to play on that screen. What is the signal? Hayes asks. A text message. One word. Expose. I close my laptop and listen to the silence of the room. I have the truth. I have the irrefutable documents. Now, I just need the original deed to my land to prove Thatcher is a liar. And for that, I need to see Grandma Veda. Are you ready to see how the trap is perfectly set? The morning of the wedding, the sky is a brilliant, mocking shade of blue. The entire town is buzzing with excitement over the event of the decade. I skip the lavish pre-wedding brunch hosted by Greer and drive my rental car straight to the Oak Ridge Care Center. When I walk up to the sterile front desk, the heavy-set security guard looks at his clipboard, then squints up at me. Name? Sutton, I say smoothly, projecting absolute confidence. Thatcher put me on the approved visitor list yesterday evening. He checks the paper, runs a finger down the names, nods slowly, and points down the long, linoleum hallway. Room 104. You have exactly 30 minutes. Do not make me come looking for you. The facility smells heavily of industrial bleach, lemon floor cleaner, and boiled vegetables. I walk down the quiet hall and gently push open the heavy door to room 104. Veda is sitting in a padded wheelchair by the large window, a colorful crocheted blanket draped over her lap. She looks much smaller than I remember, her bright white hair thin, her fragile hands trembling as they rest on the armrests. But when she turns her head and sees me standing in the doorway, her eyes are as sharp, intelligent, and bright as ever. My girl, she whispers, reaching out her shaking hands toward me. I rush across the room and kneel beside her chair, wrapping my arms around her frail shoulders, burying my face in her soft sweater. For the first time in 16 years, I feel entirely safe. Hi, Grandma. I missed you so much. Let me look at you, she says, pulling back gently and framing my face with her warm hands. You grew up so strong. Just exactly like I knew you would. Did Thatcher give you trouble when you arrived? Nothing I cannot handle, I smile warmly, wiping a stray tear from my cheek. How is your heart doing? Stubborn. Just like me, she winks playfully. Then her lined face turns deadly serious. She glances nervously toward the closed door to make sure no one is listening in the hallway. Sutton, you have to be very careful tonight. They have been laughing and whispering about this slideshow for weeks. Bellamy thinks it is the funniest thing in the entire world. They want to break your spirit. I know, Grandma. I am completely prepared for them. Veda reaches deep into the pocket of her pink cardigan. She pulls out a worn, carefully folded brown envelope and presses it firmly into my hand. I hid this from Thatcher. He tried to search my room last month while I was sleeping, but Claire, my sweet nurse, kept it safe in her locker for me. I open the envelope flap. Inside is the original, notarized deed to the 2-acre land, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am the sole, legal owner of the property. He tells people in town that he owns it, Veda whispers, her voice filled with anger. He is lying to everyone. It is yours, Sutton. It always has been. Do not let him take it away from you. I won't, I promise fiercely, slipping the envelope safely into the inner pocket of my purse. It is the final, devastating nail in Thatcher's coffin. I stay with her, holding her hand and telling her about Boston, until the gruff security guard knocks on the door and tells me visiting hours are over. I kiss her forehead softly and promise to call her the minute she wakes up from the surgery. Back at the hotel, I get ready for the wedding. I do not wear the hideous, shapeless beige dress Greer tried to force on me. I put on my tailored, navy blue suit. No frills, no lace, no compromises. It is armor. My phone buzzes relentlessly on the dresser. I have been forcibly added to a group text chat. Group name: Bellamy's Big Day. Members: Bellamy, Greer, Thatcher, Aunt Darby, and now me. The first message is from Bellamy. Bellamy, just testing the slideshow video file on my phone. I am so incredibly excited for everyone to see our beautiful family history tonight. She attaches a video file preview. I click play, watching the screen intently. Soft, emotional, sweeping piano music plays. Photos of Bellamy growing up flash across the screen. Bellamy smiling with missing teeth. Bellamy at a ballet recital holding flowers. Bellamy winning the state pageant. Thatcher and Greer hugging Bellamy tightly on a luxury yacht. I am not in a single picture. It is as if I never existed. Then, the sweeping music abruptly screeches to a halt, changing to a goofy, mocking circus tune. A terrible, poorly lit photo of me from high school appears. Thick red text flashes across my face. Sutton. College dropout. Next slide, an animated cartoon of an empty wallet with flies flying out of it. Bankrupt. Next slide, a photo of an ugly, lonely stray cat sitting in the rain. Unloved. Pathetic. Next slide, a stock image of a homeless person sleeping on a park bench. Homeless. And then, the final slide. A crude, disgusting cartoon of a baby with a giant, bloody red X stamped violently across it. Barren. My breath hitches painfully in my throat. Seeing it on the small screen of my phone is like taking a brutal, physical punch to the gut. The cruelty is so blatant, so shameless, so deeply personal. My phone buzzes again. Greer, oh Bellamy, it is hilarious. Very edgy and modern. The guests will love it. Darby, brilliant. Sutton, do not be a spoilsport tonight. It is just harmless family humor. Learn to laugh at yourself. Thatcher, character building. It will humble her. I do not type a reply. I take high-resolution screenshots of the entire chat log, capturing every single cruel word, and forward them directly to Hayes. I open my laptop and pull up the presentation file I built last night. It is 5 slides long. Clean, dark black background, crisp white text. No name calling. No childish insults. Just cold, hard, devastating facts. I take a deep breath and add one final slide to my presentation. It is a side-by-side comparison. On the left, a high-quality screenshot of the loan document with Veda's clearly forged signature. On the right, Bellamy's pawn shop receipt for the fake ring, displaying the serial number of the stolen heirloom. I save the file onto a secure, encrypted flash drive and text Hayes one last time. Sutton, the payload is ready. Are we secure? Haze. I am in the AV booth. The projector is hardwired to my override switch. Say the word, and I burn this entire place to the ground. I look at my reflection in the mirror one last time. I am a forensic auditor. I destroy corrupt empires for a living. Tonight, I am going to audit my own family. I grab my purse, feeling the solid, comforting weight of the land deed inside, and walk out the door. The wedding awaits, and hell is coming with it. The reception is held at the Oak Ridge Country Club, the most exclusive and expensive venue in the state. As I pull my rental car into the valet line, a fleet of luxury vehicles surrounds me. Porsches, imported sedans, chauffeur-driven town cars. The air is thick with the scent of expensive cigars, designer perfumes, and the sharp, crisp chill of autumn in New England. I hand my keys to the valet, who looks at my unassuming sedan with a hint of confusion before handing me a ticket. I smooth down my navy blue suit. No jewelry. No extravagant makeup. I am walking into this opulent fortress, wearing the armor of my own making. The grand ballroom is a masterclass in excessive spending. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars hang from the vaulted ceilings, casting a warm, golden glow over 200 guests. The floral arrangements alone must have cost $50,000, cascading towers of rare white orchids and imported roses on every single table. A live string quartet plays softly in the corner. Waiters in crisp white tuxedos circulate with trays of champagne and caviar. It is a physical manifestation of the life Thatcher has spent decades building. It looks flawless. It is rotting from the inside out. I walk to the seating chart displayed on a gilded easel near the entrance. I trace my finger down the alphabetical list. My name is at the very bottom. Sutton. Table 14. I navigate through the sea of silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. Table 14 is not just in the back of the room. It is shoved into the darkest corner, literally inches away from the swinging wooden doors of the catering kitchen. Every time a waiter pushes through the doors, a blast of hot air carrying the smell of industrial dish soap and shouting chefs hits the table. My table mates are distant, elderly cousins who have clearly been instructed to keep their distance. They offer tight, awkward smiles when I sit down and immediately turn their chairs slightly away from me, engaging in hushed conversations about their recent cruises. I am the ghost at the feast. The family disgrace placed exactly where they believe I belong, out of sight, out of mind, near the garbage. I take a sip of my ice water and observe the room. The head table is elevated on a small stage, draped in white silk. Thatcher is working the room like a politician on election night. He shakes hands, claps men on the shoulders, and laughs loudly. He looks incredibly confident for a man who committed federal wire fraud 6 months ago. Greer floats nearby, holding a glass of wine, accepting endless compliments on her dress and her beautiful daughter. I spot Callahan, the groom, standing near the bar with his best man. They're a few tables away from me, and the ambient noise of the room allows their voices to carry. I am telling you, man, tomorrow morning is the day, Callahan says, taking a large gulp of his scotch. He has a greedy, hungry look in his eyes. Thatcher promised me the vice president of logistics chair the minute the merger with Vanguard goes through next week. My salary triples. Plus a company car. The best man laughs, raising his glass. You really played the long game, huh? Putting up with Bellamy's shopping habits for 2 years finally pays off. Hey, she looks good on my arm, and her dad holds the keys to the kingdom. Callahan smirks, checking his reflection in the mirrored bar. It is a business transaction. Everyone wins. I feel a cold wave of disgust wash over me. Callahan does not love my sister. He loves the vice president title and the illusion of Thatcher's wealth. They deserve each other. Suddenly, a subtle shift ripples through the ballroom. The string quartet stops playing for a brief moment. Thatcher practically sprints toward the grand entrance, his politician's smile stretching so wide it looks painful. A woman walks in. She commands the room without saying a single word. She is in her late 50s, wearing a sharp, tailored emerald green gown. Her silver hair is pulled back into an elegant twist. She moves with the effortless, terrifying grace of someone who truly owns everything she looks at. It is Monroe, the chief executive officer of Vanguard Financial. The woman holding the $40 million buyout that Thatcher desperately needs to stay out of federal prison. Thatcher bows slightly, shaking her hand with both of his. Greer rushes forward, offering a kiss on the cheek that Monroe barely tolerates. They usher her to the VIP table right next to the stage. Monroe sits down, her posture immaculate, her eyes scanning the room. She looks bored. She looks like a predator assessing a very weak herd. I sit at table 14, hidden in the shadows, watching the woman who will soon be my executioner or my greatest ally. Does Monroe know the company she is buying is a hollow shell? Does she know the man groveling before her is a criminal? I look up toward the balcony at the back of the room. I see the small, glowing blue light of the audio-visual booth. I see a figure in a black polo shirt moving behind the soundboard. Hayes is in position. The waiters begin pouring champagne for the toasts. The trap is fully set. The only question now is, who is going to bleed first? The lights in the grand ballroom dim to a soft, theatrical purple. The low murmur of 200 guests fades into an expectant silence. The clinking of silverware against expensive china stops. At the head table, Bellamy stands up, her $70,000 silk gown shimmering under the spotlight. She holds a crystal microphone in one hand and a glass of champagne in the other. She clears her throat, offering the room a brilliant, perfectly rehearsed smile. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight to celebrate our beautiful union, Bellamy begins, her voice echoing smoothly through the massive speakers. This weekend has been a dream. I want to thank my incredible parents, Thatcher and Greer, for giving me the world. I want to thank Callahan's wonderful mother, Monroe, for welcoming me into her prestigious family. Monroe offers a polite, tight nod from the VIP table, her face unreadable. Tonight is about family, Bellamy continues, her voice dropping into a faux emotional register. It is about the people who support us, the people who lift us up, and the people who make us who we are. To honor that, my parents and I put together a little presentation. A look back at the beautiful history that brought us to this exact moment. Please direct your attention to the screen. Bellamy gestures gracefully toward the massive 10-foot projector screen suspended behind the head table. She looks across the dark room, past the sea of guests, and her eyes lock directly onto mine in the back corner. Her smile twists into a sharp, vicious smirk. The screen flickers to life. A sweeping, emotional piano melody fills the room. For the first 2 minutes, it is exactly what I saw in the group chat. Golden, glowing photos of Bellamy. Bellamy on a pony. Bellamy winning a massive trophy. Bellamy kissing Callahan under a waterfall. The crowd coos and applauds softly at every transition. Thatcher wraps his arm around Greer, both of them beaming with overwhelming pride. Then, the music abruptly screeches, like a needle scratching violently across a vinyl record. The sweeping piano is replaced by a ridiculous, mocking circus tune. The kind of music used for clowns. The lighting on the screen shifts from warm gold to harsh, ugly fluorescent white. A grainy, unflattering photo of me from high school fills the 10-foot screen. I am looking down, my hair messy, dark circles under my eyes. It was taken the week Thatcher threw me out of the house. Thick, blood-red text slams onto the screen over my face. Sutton. College dropout. A ripple of nervous, confused laughter spreads through the front tables. People glance around, unsure if this is a joke. The slide changes. An animated cartoon of a dilapidated, rusted car appears. A stick figure is shown sleeping in the back seat. Homeless. Pathetic. The laughter grows louder. It is no longer confused. It is cruel. The guests are taking their cues from the head table. Bellamy is laughing openly into her hand. Greer is swirling her wine, a look of profound satisfaction on her face. Next slide. An image of a rusted, empty tin can with flies buzzing around it. Bankrupt. Failure. Oh my God, someone at table 6 snorts loudly. The room erupts. 200 powerful, wealthy people are laughing at my expense. The sound hits me like a physical wave, suffocating and hot. I look at Thatcher. He is looking right at me. He raises his scotch glass a fraction of an inch, his eyes glittering with malice. This is his revenge. This is what happens when you defy him. He breaks you in front of the entire world. And then, the final slide loads. The circus music stops. There is no sound at all. Just a stark, blinding white background. A crude, ugly cartoon of a crying baby appears in the center of the screen. A loud, heavy buzzer sound effect echoes through the speakers. A giant, jagged red X is stamped violently across the baby's face. Barren. No future. The word burns white-hot against the screen. 10 feet tall. My deepest trauma. The physical damage they caused me when I was 14, weaponized and broadcasted for a room full of strangers to consume as entertainment. For a split second, the laughter falters. Some guests gasp, recognizing that a line has been crossed. The air in the room turns heavy and uncomfortable. Bellamy leans back into the microphone, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. Do not laugh too hard, everyone. She might actually cry. And we know how sensitive she gets. The tension breaks. The ugly, feeding frenzy laughter returns, louder than before. At the VIP table, Monroe sits perfectly still. She is not laughing. Her sharp eyes dart from the screen to Thatcher's smug face, and then she slowly turns her head, searching the shadows of the room until her eyes find me sitting by the kitchen doors. Thatcher calls out over the noise, his voice booming. Just a joke, sweetheart. Learn to take a joke. It builds character. I do not move. My heart is beating so hard it feels like it might shatter my ribs, but my hands are remarkably steady. The pain they inflicted on me 16 years ago is gone. It has been burned away, replaced by a cold, surgical rage. I reach into my leather purse. My fingers wrap around the smooth glass of my phone. I unlock the screen. The text thread with Hayes is already open. My thumb hovers over the send button. I look at Bellamy, glowing in her stolen glory. I look at Thatcher, a criminal hiding behind a tuxedo. I look at Greer, a hollow shell of a mother. I type one word. Expose. I hit send. What will happen when the lights come back on? 3 seconds pass. The ugly, echoing laughter of 200 people continues to bounce off the crystal chandeliers. Then, the massive projector screen violently glitches. The image of the red X tears down the middle, pixelating into a storm of gray static. A loud, sharp electronic screech blasts through the heavy speakers, forcing several guests in the front row to cover their ears. Bellamy drops her microphone, jumping backward. What is going on? Turn it off. Fix it, she yells toward the back of the room. Thatcher stands up, his face flushing with irritation. AV guy, fix the damn screen right now. Up in the balcony, Hayes does not flinch. He has locked the entire control board behind a military-grade encryption firewall. The only way to stop the projector now is to physically rip the heavy power cables out of the concrete wall, and Hayes locked the utility closet door 10 minutes ago. The gray static vanishes. The screen goes pitch black. The silence in the ballroom is instantaneous and absolute. A single line of crisp, white text appears in the center of the dark screen. The truth about the parasite. A murmur of genuine confusion ripples through the crowd. Thatcher frowns, looking at Greer, who shakes her head in panic. This was not in their script. The slide transitions. A high-resolution photograph appears. It is me. I am wearing a sharp black graduation gown, standing in front of the prestigious archways of an Ivy League university. I am holding a heavy, embossed diploma, looking directly into the camera with a quiet, fierce pride. White text fades in beside the photo. Sutton. Master of Science in Forensic Accounting. Graduated summa cum laude. The murmurs in the room grow louder, shifting from confusion to shock. The guests at the tables near me turn around in their chairs, staring at me sitting quietly in the shadows. The slide changes again. An image of a stunning, modern multi-million-dollar brownstone in the heart of historic Boston appears. Bankrupt? Sole owner of a $3 million property. Zero mortgage. Someone at the VIP table gasps loudly. Callahan, the groom, turns pale, his eyes darting between the screen and my sister. Bellamy's mouth is hanging open, her carefully practiced smile entirely wiped away. The slide transitions to a professional corporate headshot of me, wearing the exact same navy blue suit I am wearing right now. The Vanguard Financial corporate logo is subtly visible in the background of the photo. Unloved. Pathetic. Senior Director of Forensic Auditing, specializing in corporate fraud and asset seizure. Monroe, sitting at the VIP table, suddenly sits up straight. Her eyes widen in a flash of recognition. The Vanguard logo. My job title. The puzzle pieces in her brilliant mind are violently slamming together. I push my chair back. The wooden legs scrape loudly against the polished ballroom floor. In the dead silence of the room, the sound is like a gunshot. I stand up. I do not rush. I do not run toward the stage. I simply step out of the shadows of table 14 and begin walking slowly down the center aisle of the ballroom, right through the sea of terrified, silent guests. Thatcher's face is a mask of pure, unfiltered panic. He points a shaking finger at me. Turn that screen off. Security. Remove her from the premises immediately. She has lost her mind. I stop walking when I reach the exact center of the room, standing directly under the largest crystal chandelier. The spotlight catches my face. I look at my father. I do not scream. I do not raise my voice. I speak with the calm, terrifying authority of a woman who holds all the cards. I did not drop out, Thatcher. My voice carries clearly across the silent room, echoing off the high ceilings. You threw me out of the house in the middle of a blizzard when I was 18 years old. I had $43 to my name. You told this entire town I was a drug addict to cover up the fact that you evicted a teenager because she refused to sign over a piece of land. Greer clutches her chest, her face drained of all color. Sutton, please. Stop this right now. You are ruining your sister's special day. You are humiliating us. You humiliated yourselves, I reply coldly, my eyes locking onto my mother. You put my medical history on a 10-foot screen for entertainment. You mocked the infertility that you caused, Greer. When I was 14, my appendix ruptured. You left me screaming on the living room floor for 6 hours because you had to take Bellamy to a beauty pageant. Your vanity destroyed my body. That is why I am barren. A collective, horrified gasp erupts from the guests. Several women cover their mouths in shock. A man near the front spits his drink back into his glass. The room is turning on them, the opulent illusion shattering into a million jagged pieces. Bellamy is crying now. Real, ugly tears of panic, not her usual fake performance. Shut up. Shut up. Callahan, make her stop, she wails, pulling on the groom's tuxedo sleeve. Callahan rips his arm away from her as if she is on fire. He stares at the screen, then at Bellamy, a look of profound disgust forming on his face. I built an empire from the dirt you threw me into, I say, stepping closer to the head table. I track missing money for a living. I hunt down liars, frauds, and criminals who think they are untouchable. I look directly at Thatcher, watching the sweat bead on his forehead. The billionaire facade is melting off his bones. And Thatcher, I whisper, though the room is so quiet everyone hears it. I audited you. What did I find in his ledgers? The final slide clicks onto the massive screen. It is a stark, undeniable side-by-side comparison of two legal documents, enlarged so every single guest in the ballroom can read the fine print. On the left side of the screen is a high-interest, $2 million commercial loan agreement from a private equity firm. The borrower is listed as Thatcher Estate Group. The collateral listed is the Oak Ridge 2-acre parcel. On the right side of the screen is a magnified image of the signature at the bottom of that loan. Veda Thatcher. Thatcher stumbles backward, his knees hitting his chair. He looks like a man who has just been shot but has not felt the pain yet. The blood entirely drains from his face, leaving his skin a sickly, ashen gray. What is this? Thatcher stammers, his voice weak and trembling. This is a fabrication. She is hacking the system. She forged this. I did not forge anything, I say, reaching into my navy suit jacket. I pull out the worn brown envelope Veda gave me this morning. I extract the original, yellow deed to the land and hold it up in the air. This is the original deed to the Oak Ridge parcel, I announce, my voice echoing like a judge reading a final verdict. It has been in my name, and my name alone, for 16 years. Grandma Veda never transferred it. You never owned it, Thatcher. I point a finger at the massive screen behind him. 6 months ago, your company was weeks away from total bankruptcy. You needed cash to keep the lights on and maintain this pathetic illusion of wealth. So, you took out a $2 million bridge loan and you put down my land as collateral. But you could not sign for it. So you forged your 84-year-old mother's signature on a federal bank document. The silence in the ballroom is deafening. The guests are paralyzed, watching a titan of their community be exposed as a desperate felon. That is federal wire fraud, I state clearly, letting the words hang in the heavy air. That is identity theft. That is mortgage fraud. You are facing 20 years in a federal penitentiary. Liar. Greer screams, pointing a shaking finger at me. You are a jealous, hateful liar. But the fatal blow does not come from me. At the VIP table, Monroe slowly stands up. The CEO of Vanguard Financial pushes her chair back. The scraping sound echoes through the room. She smooths her emerald gown and steps forward. The crowd instantly parts for her. She walks to the edge of the stage and looks up at Thatcher. Her eyes are like chips of green ice. Thatcher, Monroe says, her voice low, steady, and vibrating with absolute authority. Is it true? Thatcher swallows hard. He tries to summon his billionaire charm, raising his hands in a placating gesture. Monroe, please, this is just a ridiculous family squabble. A misunderstanding. A clerical error on the loan documents. We can discuss the merger in my office on Monday. The Oak Ridge deal is perfectly solid. I am not asking about the merger, Monroe cuts him off, her voice cracking like a whip. She points to the screen. Is the woman on that screen, Sutton, the senior director of forensic auditing at my firm in Boston? The auditor I personally assigned 3 weeks ago to lead the blind due diligence investigation into Thatcher Estate Group. The room collectively gasps. Thatcher's mouth opens, but no sound comes out. He looks at me, horror dawning in his eyes as he realizes the magnitude of his mistake. I was not just an estranged daughter. I was the executioner Vanguard sent to inspect his rotting empire. Yes, Mrs. Monroe, I say, turning to face her with a respectful nod. I submitted my preliminary findings to your secure server 10 minutes before this reception started. Thatcher Estate Group is insolvent. The books are cooked. The land required for the Oak Ridge Plaza is not his to sell. If Vanguard acquires his company, you will inherit $40 million in toxic debt and federal indictments. Monroe closes her eyes for a brief second, processing the information. When she opens them, the deal is dead. The merger is officially terminated, Monroe announces loudly, ensuring every business partner and politician in the room hears her. Vanguard Financial will be notifying the Securities and Exchange Commission on Monday morning regarding the forged documents. You will never do business in this state, or any state, ever again. Thatcher's knees buckle. He literally collapses into his chair, burying his face in his trembling hands. The Titan has fallen. The Empire is dust. Monroe turns to me. Sutton, you did exceptional work. Your promotion to managing partner is secured. I expect you in my office on Tuesday to finalize the fallout. Thank you, ma'am, I reply quietly. Monroe turns her icy gaze to the groom. Callahan, we are leaving. Get your coat. But the destruction is not finished. Bellamy is still standing on the stage, the golden child desperately trying to salvage her shattered crown. How much deeper does the betrayal go? Bellamy refuses to go down without a fight. She is a creature built entirely on desperate self-preservation. She drops the microphone, rushes down the velvet stairs of the stage, and grabs Callahan's arm, tears streaming down her perfectly contoured face. Callahan, babe, please. Bellamy begs, her voice shrill and panicked. Do not listen to her. My sister is insane. She is just jealous of us. We love each other. We are getting married. The vice president job, remember? We can still have everything. Callahan looks at her hand clutching his tuxedo sleeve. He looks at his mother, Monroe, who is already walking toward the exit doors without looking back. Then, Callahan looks up at the massive projector screen. The image changes one final time. It is a scanned receipt from a pawn shop located in the next county over. The date is 3 weeks ago. The item described is a vintage emerald and diamond antique ring. The payout amount is $40,000 in cash. The name printed clearly on the signature line is Bellamy Thatcher. Next to the receipt is a summary of Bellamy's personal finances. $150,000 in maxed-out credit card debt. Bellamy freezes. The color drains from her lips. She slowly lets go of Callahan's arm. "You pawned it," Callahan says, his voice dangerously quiet. He reaches out and violently grabs Bellamy's left hand, holding it up so the ballroom lighting hits her engagement ring. "My grandmother's ring. The heirloom my mother trusted you with. You pawned it to pay off your shopping debts, and you bought a cheap cubic zirconia fake to fool us. I was going to buy it back." Bellamy sobs, frantically backing away from him. "I just needed a little cash for the wedding dresses." "Callahan, please, I love you." "You love my mother's money," Callahan sneers, dropping her hand in disgust. The mask of the loving groom falls away instantly, revealing the cold, calculating opportunist underneath. "There is no vice president job anymore. Your father is a broke felon. Your family is toxic waste. This wedding is over. Do not ever contact me again." Callahan turns his back on her, straightens his tuxedo jacket, and walks briskly out of the ballroom, following his mother into the night. Bellamy falls to her knees on the polished wood floor, her $70,000 silk gown pooling around her like a deflated parachute. She wails, burying her face in her hands, a ruined princess in a ruined kingdom. The guests are already scrambling toward the exits. The wealthy elite of Connecticut do not stick around for a sinking ship. They're grabbing their coats, whispering furiously into their cell phones, eager to spread the gossip before the night is over. The social execution is swift and merciless. I stand in the center of the emptying room, watching the destruction. I feel no guilt. I feel no sadness. I just feel clean. Suddenly, I feel a frantic tapping on my shoulder. I turn around. It is Greer. My mother. Her makeup is smeared, her eyes wild with panic. She looks at Thatcher, who is still slumped in his chair on the stage, staring blankly at the floor. She looks at Bellamy, sobbing on the floor. Greer reaches out and aggressively shoves a crumpled white cocktail napkin into my hand. Her fingers are trembling violently. "Sutton," Greer whispers frantically, her voice a desperate, hissing snake. "Take this. Read it. You have the power now. You have the money. You work for Vanguard. You have to save me, Sutton." I look down at the napkin. Written in smeared black eyeliner are rushed, frantic words. "Save me. I will testify against your father in federal court. I will testify against Bellamy. They forced me to do everything. I was a victim. Take me to Boston with you." I read the words twice. The sheer, breathtaking cowardice of it. The moment her husband's wealth vanishes, the moment her golden child loses her value, Greer instantly turns on them to save her own skin. She is willing to throw her entire family into a federal prison just to maintain her comfortable lifestyle. She is the most hollow, rotten person in this entire room. I look up at Greer. She is giving me a pleading, pathetic smile, trying to act like a loving mother. I walk over to the nearest guest table. A half-full glass of expensive red wine sits next to a centerpiece. I hold the cocktail napkin over the glass and slowly let it drop. The paper hits the dark red liquid. The eyeliner ink immediately bleeds and dissolves. The note sinks to the bottom of the glass, ruined forever. "You were never a victim, Greer," I say coldly, watching her desperate smile shatter. "You held the matches while they burned me alive. Enjoy the ashes." I turn my back on my mother and walk away. What happens when the dust finally settles? The grand ballroom is almost entirely empty now. The string quartet packed up their instruments and fled 20 minutes ago. The waiters have vanished into the kitchen, leaving trays of uneaten caviar and warm champagne abandoned on the tables. The 10-foot projector screen still glows with the damning evidence of the pawn shop receipt and the forged loan, a silent monument to the family's destruction. On the stage, the villains are turning on each other, tearing whatever is left of their family to shreds. Thatcher suddenly snaps out of his catatonic state. He stands up, his face purple with rage, and points a shaking finger at Greer. "You stupid woman. This is your fault. If you had not pushed for this extravagant wedding, if you had not insisted on that pathetic slideshow, Sutton never would have done this. Greer screams back at him, her voice echoing in the empty hall. My fault? You are the idiot who forged a federal document. You ruined us. You are going to prison, Thatcher. I am filing for divorce the minute the courthouse opens. Bellamy, still sitting on the floor in her ruined dress, screams at both of them. You ruined my life. Callahan is gone. I have nothing. I hate both of you. They are like rats trapped in a burning cage, biting and clawing at each other in the dark. It is a pathetic, ugly sight. 16 years of pretending they were superior, all burned down in less than 10 minutes. I do not stay to watch the end of the argument. I have seen enough. I walk out the grand double doors of the ballroom, leaving the shouting behind me. The crisp, cold autumn air hits my face as I step out onto the front steps of the country club. The valet brings my unassuming rental car around. I hand him $100 tip. He looks at me with wide eyes, having clearly heard the shouting from inside, and wishes me a good night. I sit in the driver's seat. I start the engine, turning on the heater to chase away the chill. My phone buzzes in my purse. I pull it out. It is a text message from an unknown number. But I know who it is. Claire. The night nurse from the Oak Ridge Care Center. Claire, Sutton. I do not know how you did it, but the news is already hitting the local blogs. More importantly, Hayes sent me a secure link to a live audio feed of the ballroom. I put a single earbud in Veda's ear so she could listen to the whole thing. My heart skips a beat. I type back quickly. Sutton, is she okay? Did it upset her? 3 dots appear on the screen as Claire types. Claire, upset her? Sutton, she has been laughing for 10 minutes straight. Her vitals are stronger than they have been all week. She told me to tell you, that is my girl. Tell her to build a house on that land. She is so proud of you. A hot tear finally slips down my cheek. It is not a tear of pain or grief or anger. It is a tear of profound, overwhelming relief. The chain is broken. The debt is paid. Veda is safe, and Thatcher can never use her against me again. He will be far too busy dealing with federal investigators. I put the car in drive and pull out of the country club parking lot. I drive past the massive, dark estates of my hometown, the place that tried to chew me up and spit me out. I am driving back to Boston. Back to my own life. Back to my beautiful home, my incredible career, and a future that belongs entirely to me. They called me barren. They called me a failure. They called me a parasite. But as I drive onto the highway, watching the city lights of Boston glow in the distance, I realize the truth. I was never the parasite. I was the host they tried to bleed dry. And tonight, I finally cut them off. Some people believe that family is blood, and blood is an unbreakable contract. They tell you that you have to forgive, that you have to turn the other cheek, that you have to endure toxic abuse simply because you share a last name. They tell you to keep the peace. I am here to tell you that the peace is not worth your soul. You do not owe your abusers loyalty, no matter who they are. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to protect yourself. And, sometimes, you are allowed to burn the bridge while they are still standing on it. I survived the fire. And I built an empire from the ashes. Now, I want to turn this over to you, the jury. I want to ask you a serious question about what happened in that ballroom tonight. When my mother, Greer, handed me that frantic note written in eyeliner, begging me to save her, begging to throw my father and sister under the bus to protect her own wealth. If you were in my exact position, with all the power in your hands, would you have dropped that note into the glass of wine like I did? Or would you have taken her with you to Boston and saved her from the wreckage? Tell me what you would do in the comments below. Be honest. Thank you for watching this far. If you support Sutton and want to see how she turns the tables, comment, "I'm win" below. That's our secret code, and I'll like and reply to any comment containing this keyword. Like and subscribe so you don't miss the next explosive stories.